Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Viewers, 6 days ago, Karan Thapar interviewed an IAS retired officer, Mr. Avesh Shukla. He's the brother of Mr. Ajay Shukla. And their discussion was primarily based on whether India has indeed become a Muslim hating country. The overall discussion was quite prominent, in which few topics were shared, a few suggestions were made. But the ultimate sad thing was that there seems to be nothing at hand now for the BJP, or no resistance whatsoever, from which at least the minorities inside India can now feel a sigh of relief, or at least a fresh, sigh of breath for themselves. It is in fact become quite relevant in these times that we are now witnessing the times of 1933 till 1939 back in the hands of affairs in the modern day times, especially in the form of rise of Nazism inside India. We are going to discuss this issue with Mr. Vakar K. Kodvi. Sir, what initially pointed out during the interview was the current elections ongoing, which have been taking place inside Jharkhand and some bypolls inside UP, inside West Bengal, as well as in Maharashtra, the main polls. So the IAS officer, Mr. Avesh Shukla, mentioned a video which was very famous on social media as well. It was made for the Jharkhand campaign by the BJP, and unfortunately, it was based on Muslim hate at all. And we also heard that he mentioned a few speeches beforehand that were made. Nobody was there to stop it. This was coming from senior government officials or in their presence, and the few slogans that have been coined up, that katega to marega, and such absurd things coming from the BJP hierarchy. How do you see the future unfolding for the Muslims inside India?
I think, as you pointed out, in 1930s, and we need to trace back the origin of Nazi ideology in uh, basically
Germany.
Germany in 1930s, and the RSS ideology, because this was happening, I think, almost simultaneously. So there was definitely influence drawn by the gentleman who wrote the ideology of RSS, whether it was Hindu Mahasabha or Sangh Parivar, and then later on RSS. So you'll find very similar themes in Nazi Germany, as well as propelled by Golwalkar, Savarkar, Nathuram Godse, who actually assassinated Gandhi, and Hedgewar. So these were, you can say, maybe Godse was kind of a junior in that, but these three ideologues. There are a lot of similarities. I think we have been discussing it. Just for the audience, that Nuremberg laws were mainly to ostracize the Jewish community in Germany or German lands,
Mhm.
and it affected their businesses. Like Germans were told they should not be shopping from Jewish shops. Marriage was discouraged, with let's say German women being told not to marry Jewish men. And then there was a huge info war by Goebbels against them. And then we've seen
There was
the
also this
Holocaust.
weird combination of Jews conspiring with gypsies, and that Poland is conspiring. The Czechs are doing this. We can also see that happening inside India. Infiltrators coming from Bangladesh, or infiltrators coming from Pakistan or Burma. It seems like a complete copy paste agenda by the RSS or BJP, just copying the Nuremberg laws, basically
I think this
giving
is,
them different names, I would
yeah,
say.
this is a fine point that you make, that what are the similarities. And then you come to present day, you have CA and NRC against Muslims. And then there's a complete saffronization of history, culture, and science. People are now talking of moody waves
Mhm.
and saffron science. And then we have Babri Mosque. So if you compare the Nazi agenda or the RSS fascist agenda in India, there are similarities. Now, there they had, let's say, the marriage laws, and here you have Ghar Wapsi and Beti Bachao. So mainly, and there's I think, movie which came up on that.
Mhm.
Then
Love Jihad is based on that.
Love Jihad.
Mm.
Then you have Muslim butcheries being banned, actually shut down in UP, and there were a lot of business. Although the Hindu owners of butcheries are now exporting, India is one of the largest exporter of beef. But for India, it's not allowed, especially if it is done by Muslims. Then Infowar by Goebbels, and now you have Godi Media. So it's
Mhm.
very similar. And then, of course, certain laws for citizenship. Here you have the CAA and NRC specifically target Muslim community. So I think this is the background. And since RSS has come to power, they started grabbing power in 1980s, but now you find them in some of the major Indian states, especially the Hindu belt. And we've seen how they won Maharashtra, although there are allegations of rigging. But in the center, they have a very strong government. And now we have Muslim being really squeezed. So coming back to the interview, I think by Karan Thapar with Mr. Abhay Shukla, is basically he's an IAS officer who is now settled down after retirement in Himachal. And he very clearly mentioned that here you don't have any threat as far as Muslims are concerned, because I think they are 2 to 3% of the total population. It's a very large Hindu majority state. And here again, there is a fear of Muslims. And I think there is something to do with psychologically. Now, if you trace back the history, at least 1,000 or 800 years, by and large, Muslim ruled bulk of India. And I think in terms of Mughals, then probably they consolidated almost 90% of India was under their rule. So there is something to do with some inferiority complex also. But now it's becoming a new normal. And we are heading into a very, very disturbing time for Muslims.
Yeah, I also saw some comments mentioned in the video as well. There were a lot of Muslims, expressing their anger and sorrow there. One of the few comments that kept me with a keen eye was there was a Muslim man from UP suggested that after the advertisement was made by the BJP, his Hindu friends are no longer in contact with him. He seems to be very alone. It seems like people are treating him like a second-class citizen. So, if this is done on a repeated basis, create constant inhumanity or constant degradation of a particular community in the minds of the majority of the population. Do you think this is going to be very hunky dory in terms of economics, in terms of relations with one another, or will India see a lot of bloodshed in the coming years? Because things might get out of control if the venom is spread so much, and people will say that you yourself said these things, so we are just abiding by what you mentioned.
I think you are right when you point out that when it starts permeating from top down, maybe, if this is an odd comment, it's all right. But when it is systematically done, as we mentioned that now, basically, this a neo-Nazi agenda, basically wrapped into Hindutva agenda. I've seen Arnab Goswami trying to interview one of the, let's say religious figures, a young guy. And he very clearly told him that there will be no discussion with the panelists. I'll be all, one-to-one. And Arnab Goswami, who was so aggressive, he was so submissive, as if, he was his servant. And then he was giving a pep talk that we are not political, but, batenge to katenge and all that. And so I think basically it's permeating. Then if you look at Safanization of culture, history, you look at Bollywood, how Muslim, let's say, rulers were tarnished. Baji Rao Mastani, you've seen. Basically, they're trying to see that, project that there was a huge resistance, and somehow, despite that, Muslim rule, one of the best rules was united India. And look at Aurangzeb's time. Even Shashi Tharoor said that in the book that it was 26% of global GDP. So this was a very, very rich country. So all told, then we come to what happens to the let's say middle cadres and then lower cadres, because when there is a share or kind of prodding or narrative building, and it's being done on daily basis, whether it is social media or on mainstream media, it permeates to middle level cadre, MNAs, MPs, and then it starts traveling to the cadre on the street. And then you find lynch mob, you find mosques being demolished, and now there is a new wave. I think after Babri Mosque, there is a door opened, and I think it was pointed out by
very familiar to what Zionists are doing to the Palestinians.
Exactly. So if you look at the toolkit or the playbook, it's the same. Basically, the playbook is the same. That this is how you ostracize a majority. But here, another important thing is, it's basically how the Bollywood celebrities are now joining. Some of them have joined politics, and how they are now contributing. Because when some celebrity says that, let's say an RSS slogan, or he follows that agenda, then he's going to be definitely followed on the streets. So you'll find mob lynching, you'll find in the name of Gauraksha. And we've seen what is happening to the mosque. So from Babri Mosque, I think even the Supreme Court opened a door, as I was mentioning, to now start targeting anything which has some relationship with Muslims. Because very easy to claim that 600 years back there was a Shivling or let's say some temple under that. You can dig it out and then you start basically inciting Muslims. And then if it is shown by archaeological department, because normally the archaeology department will side with the RSS because RSS has penetrated the entire bureaucracy. So it means that if this rule that you start digging your history underneath the foundations of mosques and Muslim monuments, suppose it is applied in let's say US or Canada because there were indigenous people living, or Australia. So technically, all the whites should leave North America, South America, and Australia and New Zealand, and hand it over to Aborigines or the original people. And if the RSS claim that okay, this was Hindu, but if you look at Aryans, they were also invaders. So then go back to original Indians who are now living as
or even
Dalits.
Dravidians, yeah.
Yeah, who are now either the Dravidians. That's why there is a huge gap between North and South. Or I think then the original masters are the Dalits and the way they are treated. So I think this is a very, very, I would say, absurd but tragic thing happening in so-called secular India.
Yeah, here comes a very tough question. A lot of the times they consider this justifiable. Whatever they do back in India should not be of any concern with the rest of the world, is because we have such a massive economy. We have such a big soft, power image building. And then we saw this video on social media. There was an Arab sheikh criticizing the Bollywood actor who was campaigning for BJP inside Jharkhand, I think. That here we treat you Hindus in a particular manner with full liberty to do whatever you want. And on the other hand, whatever minorities are there inside India, they're being treated so badly that you are just coming up to conclusions that they need to be dead now or we have to cut their heads.
Yeah, this is, I think, related to one speech made by Mr. Mithun Chakrabarti. And Amit Shah was sitting
Yes,
there.
the
There
Home
was
Minister was there.
yeah,
Yes.
senior leadership of BJP and RSS was there. And in exuberance, he then said that we will cut the Muslims and not throw them in Bhagirathi river because they consider that's a Punya river or basically
holy river.
A holy river. So we throw it in your lands. Probably he was pointing that they will throw the pieces into Pakistan or Bangladesh, something like that. So I think it was very, very demeaning coming from. And mind you, Mithun Chakrabarti used to be a celebrity in Pakistan also.
Yes.
But now we see, wearing a Che Guevara cap, and then Dada comes up and then displays that. Good thing is that some of the, I think, Arab social media activists, or I would say even very honorable gentlemen like this Arab businessman in UAE came up. And this is a very soft way he tried to basically address it. And I think he took people to his office and asked, there were a lot of Hindus there, that how do we treat you? Very nicely. UAE is, I think, one of the first Arab countries to allow a huge grand mandir. And there is no objection. The Hindus, since they are in millions, and the amount of money Gulf generates for India is enormous. Look at their business. Even I think, look at Gujarati businessmen, they have a lot of linkages. Adanis and Ambanis and Tatas and Mittals.
But would you still consider this as a strong argument? Having a massive soft power image and a huge economy constitutes your own country to do whatever the hell it wants back home. Because we saw what happened to Nazi Germany. It was a very big economy and had a very big military industrial complex. We saw what happened to the Soviet Union. Again, very powerful economy. So does this apply to India in a different way?
Yeah, although analogies, there, but looking at the geographical size. But if you look at South Asia, and now we'll also connected with this Arab Sheikh. Nice of him that I think he came up with this very clear message. He even said that in case you touch a Muslim, we'll see what happens. This is the kind of message that please stop this nonsense. Now, if you look at South Asia, India is geographically connected with every country, and by and large, no South Asian country is connected with others. Then maybe it's Afghanistan, if you include them, it's Pakistan, but otherwise. Now, why there is anti-India sentiment in all of these countries? You've seen it Sri Lanka. You've seen what is happening in Bangladesh. We've seen Pakistan is already in a hostile relationship. and if you have other neighbors like China, so they know what is happening in. So all told, I think this, and now there is also a response coming on social media from the West also. You have seen, people, words like Pajeets and all that are being used because of their habits. And there's a Hindutva agenda also in North America. Now they are basically very happy that Trump is going to have a lot of, let's say, Indian origin people, although they're going to follow the American policy, but they are very happy that, oh, we have now such and such people. So all told, I think a time would come. So India would actually, like Germany was basically more homogeneous. But India, if you, I think let's refer to Mandal Commission report, and I would request the audience to go through it, Google it, Mandal Commission report. You'll be surprised that basically it is not the majority oppressing the minority, but minority oppressing the majority. But if you look at the class, so out of the Varnas, 4 Varnas, the upper 3, Brahman, Shudra and Vaishya constitute 23 to 24% of India. Rest is 77%. We include Shudras, which is part of the Varna, but definitely it's a lower class. Then you have Dalits, 200 million. You have Muslim between 250 to 300 million. There are different figures. Indians would always say that no, they are less than 200 million. But Muslims claim. Then you have a large presence of Christians and Sikhs. And in certain states, they are majority. So if you look at that, so there will be one internal implosion. And I always say that Muslims who are 250 million, I think even it was remarked by one of the Bollywood actor like Mr. Shah or some of their people who hold the shrines in Ajmer Sharif, that we are not going to, take it lying down. So we are going to fight it out. Nasiruddin Shah.
Yeah.
And I think even Shabana Azmi was not given allowed to have a flat in some of the areas where Hindus were living. So there is a kind of response which is coming. And Mithun Chakrabarti was also responded by then one of the Muslim, MPs. So if you look at the concentration of Muslims, let's focus on that. South India, you have a good majority, especially Kerala, almost more than 50%. Then you have a large population in Karnataka. And then I have the data. There are certain cities which are even in Haryana, like Mewat city, 76%. Well. Uttar Pradesh is 25%. If you look at Western Uttar Pradesh, combine Delhi, it comes to 45%. So there are areas where you have same as Eastern Seaboard. You go to West Bengal, it's touching 25 to 30%. Then you have Telangana or Andhra Pradesh. And then you have South. Lakshadweep Island is almost 98% Muslims. And then, of course, occupied Kashmir, which is not part of India, but again, Muslim majority. So it means that there are geographical zones from where you could have resistance. Let's suppose Muslim, Dalits, Sikhs, and Christians, and Adivasis, or the tribal, especially the Northeast is in revolt, they get into an alliance. And I think this could be a good idea. There have been books written on Dalit Muslim alliance, because if you combine, it becomes almost very close to 500 million people. It's huge.
Yeah, we was in the interview is also talking about, just like you mentioned, they claim any mosque that is made or is very historical, it was a temple beforehand. There's a very tough question again that when it comes to minorities, we see that some minorities tend to be very strong in their commitment to their cause. We saw what happened during the Sikh farmer protests, how Modi had to succumb to their terms, and we saw how strong they are in Indian Punjab. We saw what's happening in Manipur. Again, a Christian group is trying to fight it out and get their rights back, but they are generally fighting it out, not necessarily just protesting. We saw what's happening inside Nagaland as well. We don't see as much of this in mainland India by a lot of Muslim groups, even in states like Kerala or such areas where they're in majority actually. Why is that?
Yeah, I think there's something related to when India was partitioned. There's a kind of guilty feeling that even Gandhi and Nehru were able to inject into Muslims. There's a guilty feeling that maybe it was Muslims of Pakistan, including Bangladesh now, East Pakistan, West Pakistan, were separated, and it was a sin they have created, and the Mother India was divided because of them. So they have to be punished. What Congress did was, basically gave them a pep talk. This is secular India. Despite, if you look at figures, like imagine if they are, let's say, 14 to 15% as claimed by India. Maybe they are more than that. But if you look at bureaucracy, judiciary, military in the higher ranks, you'll find 2 to 3% Muslim. So they are not given, their quota. So it means that one is they were made guilty conscious. There was a Congressi Muslim leaders. Like Azad, is a lot of talked about. Azad predicted breakup of Pakistan, but he failed to predict what will happen to Muslims in India. He was basically an exponent of that. And what is happening to Muslims now, I am sure. Jinnah, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Qaid Azam was right when he said that Muslim will keep on basically proving that we are good Indians, but nobody will listen to them. So I think history is proven. Like Bangladesh, now we have very strong, response coming from Bangladesh on history. When they threw Sheikh Mujib's statues on ground, it means that probably there is a feeling that although there is definitely blame on Pakistan because it was a civil war, that they also committed something wrong. And there are a lot of now call on social media for brotherhood. So it means that one was they were guilty conscious, the other was their leaders were hijacked, including from occupied Kashmir. Look at Sheikh Abdullah's family, later on, Farooq Abdullah, then Umar Abdullah, including muftis. And then also at time they are given some crumbs in form of, let's say, some of the ministries, some higher jobs in military or judiciary. But by and large, this was one. The other is the Muslims in different zones. Like southern Muslims are slightly different, more Dravidians. Then you go to the eastern seaboard with West Bengal, they are more Bengali. And then you come to the northwest or the main, let's say, area where Muslim ruled, the Delhi Sultanate or Mughal Empire. There you have Muslims in large numbers, but not in majority. So it means that they have been divided. And there is also, I think, issue of caste. Then you'll find that Deobandi versus Barelvi, and India has played very smartly on that. But by and large, now with the social media, I think there is an awareness that enough is enough. We basically are not going to be third-rate citizens. And look at the contribution, like
the missile system.
Yeah, the president of India, AGP Kalam. Then if you look at one of their biggest, I would say, philanthropist, Mr. Prem, and he Premji, I'm just forgetting his name. So he was one of the biggest. I think donated billions of dollars.
Bollywood is dominated
Azim
by Muslims again.
Yeah. So there is now an awareness that we have to do it. If you go to their spaces on social media, there is a response which is coming. So it means that the next, I think, generation of Muslim is going to come from this cadre. And I am sure they should look at what Sikhs are doing for their rights, what the Northeast is doing, even for the Bengalis. In West Bengal, there's a great nationalism, southern India. And in, I think, Uttar Pradesh also, if you look at western Uttar Pradesh and Delhi, you have a huge chunk of...
I mean, they have to. They weren't even allowed to vote this time.
Yeah, you've seen this video.
In UP, they weren't allowed to vote.
The police officer is trying to, ask Muslim women, pointing a gun at them that they should not vote. So I think gradually, I feel that in 10 years down the line, if RSS keeps on moving this trajectory, India will implode, and Muslim, Dalits, Sikhs and Christians and Adivasis should look at relief zones.
Is there a possibility that they can live happily even if they go for, a giant reconciliation effort or a protest, that they can live inside the Indian Union, be part of the citizen cycle, be considered as first-class citizens, or there are no more options left, they have to go for something else?
If you look at Congress, which is the alternate, although this used to be the ruling party for, I think, better part of Indian history, that they have also now started adopting soft Hindutva, because they know that they're going to lose the Hindu vote. What happens in Maharashtra, I don't know what was the kind of combination. Basically, it was anti-Muslim also. And now BJP always thrives on, Hindu Muslim, because if you look at, if they can incite Muslims, even if you look at the mosque being targeted, Yogi Adityanath is going to be, he's the PM in waiting. So it means that, look at Modi, and now you have another extremist who probably is a double extremist than Modi. He is projected as the next prime minister. So it means that basically they are going to be suppression. So I feel that till the time they have political awareness, like there were certain parties, especially in the south, which were now being disbanded. There were some student unions like Simi, and they have been also crushed. So till the time you doesn't realize that it is possible uh, if they especially have alliance with other like-minded groups, oppressed communities, and on their own also. But there is definitely a need for the leadership to look into it and then come up with a response.
Also, things do work out for the Muslims of India. That's it for today, folks. Please do leave a like and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much for watching us. Bye bye.